Hello, everyone. This is Melissa Fash from AuthorityLabs, and we are here today with Thom Craver and Jason White. We're going to be talking about schema markup and SEO. And I want to start off and let you all introduce yourselves, and tell the audience a little bit about who you work for and what you do. Why don't we start with Jason?
I am VP of SEO and social media at DragonSearch. We are a digital marketing agency. We're located in, we have a production office upstate New York, and we have an office down in New York as well. I've been in SEO for over 7 years. I've definitely been involved with a lot of different types of projects. I love doing website audits. I love doing international stuff, trying to figure out issues with hreflang and canonical tagging and stuff like that. And being 2016, we have to be good at schema markups too. So I do definitely a lot of different things with schemas as well.
Cool. Awesome. Thom?
Hi, I'm Thom Craver. I am Director of Analytics at Acronym. We're an intent-based digital marketing agency based out of New York City. Work with a lot of Fortune 500 companies, a lot of Fortune 100 companies. I've been around the block a long time, starting from a web developer all the way up to SEO and analytics. The two kind of merged for me at one point in time, and I've kind of flip-flopped back and forth between the two of them. But I've written about SEO for Search Engine Watch and had my hands in SEO for a long time, including developing tools at previous positions and other places. So that's kind of my story.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. Well, are you all hearing an echo? No, we're not. A little bit. That's not good. Okay. All right. So my first question for you is really, a lot of people have their basic SEO done, they believe. How important is schema markup for even, let's say, small businesses to start?
Oh, well, it's kind of like, how much do you want Google to understand, especially for a small business? We all talk about how Google gives priority to the larger brands and the well-known entities that are out there in the world. And, I mean, everybody most of the small businesses, they're like, okay, we got our website, that was important, and we gave most of our thought to it, and now we're going to sprinkle some SEO on top, which is, of course, not exactly the way you want to do it, but that's kind of the progress generally that I see with most of the smaller businesses. So then you're kind of like, well, what else can we do to make this better? Well, you can do more than just sprinkle a little SEO on top. But at the same time, yeah, this is where schema becomes important. If you're selling anything, especially, you certainly want to throw schema in there about your products. You want to throw your pricing structures in there. You want to throw, what currency you take, that kind of stuff. If you're a service-based business, or if you have any walk-in hours, certainly throw that out there. And if you're doing anything local, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole just yet. If you're doing anything local, you really need to make sure that you're tagged at least for your location. I think those would be the starting points that I would say. I did an experiment a long time ago with doing SEO audits for websites, and I had absolutely no schema on the site at all. I ended up putting a little markup on just about the bare minimum for the product of an SEO audit, and then in pricing, and then a little bit about ratings and how I had been rated on previous products. And I went from absolutely nowhere on the map for a global search, not anything local, to 14th in seemingly overnight. Will that work for everybody? Your mileage may vary, but it certainly can lend a boost. And that's a kind of rough edge, but I'll back off and let Jason take a stab at it for a second.
I like to think of it more as layering. There's a lot of different layers to the Google search algorithm. Schema is another layer that you can provide in terms of optimization, providing more information to both the user and to the search engine. 95% of the sites I look at probably don't have any schema, especially the local, based mom and pop type sites. So, as Thom mentioned, it definitely can be an opportunity to get a leg up on your competitors and perhaps steal some of their cheese. But it's a layer. It has to be a tactic that's used if it makes sense for that particular website and in ways that make sense for that particular website.
Okay, great. You all dealt with clients, so you know what I'm talking about. You deal with these people who say we don't have the money to invest in X, Y, or Z that you're recommending. And I'm always like, quit advertising in the paper and put it into your website. I know that schema is not an easy thing to always implement. What are your recommendations for, what would you tell a business that was like, I just don't have the money? I mean, you've kind of already covered how important it is, but what do you say to clients in that situation? Like you have to invest in it, or
you find the time. You find the time and find the money for it, and you make sure it's a priority at some point in time. I mean, there's the free tool that's out there that I will not necessarily say is the greatest thing in the world, but you go to your web page, you drag and drop an outline and say, this section right here, this is my event that I'm having. It's on this day at this time and whatever, and it essentially auto tags it for you. You just gotta fill out some fields online, and it generates the code for you. You give that code to your developers, with a coupon for free pizza, and they're off and running, because that's how you motivate the developers, right? With free food. But I mean, it's you find the time for it. I mean, it's a time commitment. It's not necessarily a financial commitment unless you're like paying through the nose for your developers. Just make it a priority. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, a lot of the budgets that we work with are ongoing, so we're able to build it into part of our strategy and add it in as that layer. Really, if they can't implement all the schema that you want to implement, 80% of the way is good enough. Don't let hang up prevent you from at least doing something and taking it as far as you possibly can. I think that would probably be my greatest bit of advice. And mentioning the tool you said, and you can mark it up and it'll spit out the code. You can do it in Webmaster Tools too. It's not the greatest, but it's something. It's better than nothing. It's at least going to give you that additional little bit of information that you're perhaps giving the user or the search engine.
Yeah, I'm going to just kind of follow up on that. That's exactly it. Don't get hung up on has to be perfect. A little bit here, a little bit there will go a long way, but there's certain things you have to put in to make your schema valid. You can't just leave off. So like if you're not a product, you have to put in pricing info, unfortunately. You can put a range or you can put starting at, I think is what the tag is. You have to put exact pricing because some people are kind of fuzzy about that online. But I mean, yeah, absolutely. Don't get hung up on perfection. Make it like, a minimum viable product. Put something out there to get you going, get you started. Let Google understand a little more, in a semantic matter, how your page is or what it's about or what your company or your product is about. Just make sure that you're getting something out there and then you iterate it after the fact.
And if you're having trouble getting the schema implemented, you're probably looking at a lot of things that are having trouble getting implemented. Title tags and meta descriptions, maybe even. So you're looking for incremental gains across. You're looking for small gains on little actions to build them up into something that's greater sum. So that strategy of incremental gains will definitely come into play with schema.
Okay, and we have some questions here that we got. And how does schema help Google understand your relationships to topics and things in the real world? How would you answer that one? Just basically
knowledge graph.
No. Okay.
So if you do a Google search on, I don't know, almost anything nowadays, you get that section down the right-hand side that says, more information about whatever, whether it's an event, maybe it's a location or a restaurant or something. So Google has a big database that they call their knowledge graph, and it's basically an understanding of what they understand certain events to be and how they relate together. A restaurant has a location. That location might be a city, a state, and a physical address. A restaurant also has reviews. It has certain foods. Those foods have recipes. And everything can interrelate in some way, shape, or form. So basically, everything that Google's trying to learn about becomes like a data object. So while Google will not come out and say you're going to rank higher if you use schema, what it is going to do when you start tagging your product, start tagging your company, is it's going to give Google a little more understanding of where you are, what you're about, how much things cost, what currency you take, that kind of stuff. And it can start relating those objects of your site to other objects. So the more they understand, the more that they'll be pertinent in the rankings. A long time ago, Google said, and I'm sure somebody will still stand by this, they said, we don't care about people who are paying for anything. We care about our free search users. We want to give them the best experience. And there's truth to that, but there's tongue-in-cheek truth to that. And But that's kind of the point, though, too, at the same time. I mean, to really play devil's advocate and say, sure, Google's not lying to us, and that's exactly what they care about, you know, it is. If you help Google understand things, they'll be able to rate to it better and give a better search experience for the end user.
Okay, great. Jason, any thoughts or not on that one?
I mean, it could be a defensive action too. It could help control reputation management. You know, if I saw an example recently where there was a pet shop that sold Peppies, and somebody had been, you know, outside with signs, and they had taken a photo in front of the establishment with one of their signs, claiming that they were Puppy Mill or something like that, and it had gotten into the knowledge graph and it had attached itself to this brand, and it was appearing on the result for their branded SERP. So, you know, getting even the basis and tying your imagery together and letting Google know that this is me, this is the forward-facing version of me that I want displayed to the world, while they might not necessarily follow it all the time, it is important to make sure that you've minded those details to kind of future-proof yourself from, you know, anything that's possible in the future.
Great thought. Yeah. Click-through rates. What have you all found personally with Schema? Does that help?
I have seen nice increases in click-through rates. It depends on the type of, you know, rich snippet that's displayed. Reviews and product stuff all day long. I absolutely think that that's a major trust identifier. I think that's probably the biggest win that I've seen. You know, we all know about authorship and publisher markup and stuff like that, and there were a lot of studies that were you know, created when that practice was happening with Google. And, you know, there were different things that differed, but I think in the end that did prove there was a click-through rate increase, and that's definitely something that we watch and we're mindful of at DragonSearch. Yeah,
I mean, there's not much more I can say to that, too. It's true, the click-through rate does go up. Again, especially on the reviews, you see the little stars there when they pop up. I mean, it's like, why do we put a thumbnail picture next to our snippets there of what we're doing? Why do we have a featured image in WordPress? You know, the science says people who see pretty graphics, people who see certain things, stars, whatever, they know, they like it, they want to click through it, they think it's more pertinent or at least more trustworthy. So, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't buy anything without reading reviews, ever.
Do you trust those reviews?
No, what I do is even though lately what I'm seeing is a lot of 4 and 5 stars, and then you read the reviews, and there's a lot of 1 and 2 stars. So I'm not quite sure how the math is working out. So I don't trust the stars. I trust what is said. And if everyone is like, this is the best thing ever, no. So I don't.
Well, that comes to a good point, though, too, Melissa. I mean, it's it's in a gray area here now, right? But I don't want to say that this is the new, you know, hidden text of old, but you can manipulate certain things with Schema, just like anything else. I mean, we manipulated title tags. We put different colored text on different colored backgrounds back in the day. You know, you can completely fudge your rankings, and all Google will see for a while is just, hey, here's some Schema, there's some stars, there's some rankings, and you can put a URL where these things come from, and you can kind of fudge those to a certain extent. Will you get caught eventually? Absolutely. I'm sure it's still, you know, and they're still developing new ways of I'm sure automating how that happens. But yeah, you can manipulate those. You could probably see 5 stars here and then go to the page and, you know, or go to the source of where those reviews were and see lesser numbers. So
right. And the
grain of salt.
The one I use all the time, I won't mention live, but I shop there constantly. But I do cross-reference my reviews, like I go to other sites and check. And yeah, that totally made me forget my question. But okay, so the next question I have is there's a group of, I'd say, younger folks who believe that social media is replacing SEO, which I'm not a firm believer of at all. But my question for you is, how can Schema help all these people who are really into social media and want to get the most out of it?
That's a big open-ended question. You know, you could take your generic social schemas, is the term that we call them around here, to make sure that when somebody shares a piece of content to Facebook or Twitter, that it's displaying correctly. It's displaying in the way that you want it to be displayed. And there's great control that we now have in displaying those messages. So it's super important to go through and just make sure that your basic social stuff is just set up so that it looks great on social, it's shareable, and it works. The other piece to it too is that Facebook's a walled garden, and we have all these social networks that don't really want to share information and data with everybody else. And I really see Schema as a conduit to making sure the signals that are found on LinkedIn or Facebook are understood by the search engine. It's an ecosystem, and we approach it as an ecosystem. And SEO isn't just optimizing title tags, meta descriptions, and on-site anymore. It encompasses a lot of different actions that we built into your strategy. So Schema, I feel, really is a way that the messages could be understood, they can cross over, and it's showing the strength of your ecosystem and not just one internet entity anymore.
No, it's exactly that. It's almost, I don't want to say it's universal, but the tags are universally recognized, and you can certainly, they're objects, they're data objects, and we're living in a data-driven world. So, that's pretty much it. Every entity out there, whether it be a social site or API for a social site or things that are aggregating things together, same thing. They're like Jason said, they pull it together and they make it happen.
Great. Okay, my next question for you is, have you noticed a bigger impact, or not a bigger, but at least a massive one, with mobile results versus desktop in regards to schema markup? I mean, especially for things like events or, especially with restaurants or services or products, I'm noticing it's actually easier for me sometimes to find things on mobile versus desktop. I just didn't know what you all had seen for clients, or if you've tested that out, or.
Yeah, especially for anything that's hyper local. Again, a restaurant, absolutely, or a local store or whatever. Look at what happened with I'll take New York for an example, because they shut almost everything down. People are still walking around. Where can I go? What's open? Not that the schema would have told you that, they weren't doing that in real time, but what's near me now? What's near me right now? And are they still open at this point? And then finding various things there. Maybe the snowstorm was a bad idea, but certainly, yeah, like what you said with restaurants, everything has a data element to it. You definitely can tie that in together, and people on mobile searches have very limited screen space, and therefore, again, going back to Google wants to deliver the right results, they're going to try to give you as much as they know as possible, and if that means it has more data, Google has said they will not give you any special priority if you have schema just for the sake of having schema. However, if you have certain elements that it can understand and helps understand what the user's query was, then absolutely you're going to rank higher than somebody who wouldn't have it, because somebody knows what they're searching for. Google understands that semantically and is throwing the stuff that it knows about first. So.
Okay. All right.
I haven't noticed anything specific. Unfortunately, a lot of my clients were still convincing them to go mobile. Some of them, it doesn't make sense totally to go mobile yet. Some of the bigger clients that we have definitely already are responsive or have mobile, but I haven't seen anything huge one way or another. I do think it depends on the user group, more than anything else. We have a slip and fall attorney as one of our clients, and they had mentioned in a meeting that a lot of their clients have mobile phones but not desktops. So that's a huge thing to put into our strategy. And in that case, I could see schema markups for mobile being a pretty big play and being something that would pay them pretty good benefits.
Okay, great. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out why some people are not seeing it. The broadcast doesn't seem to be showing up on YouTube. Okay. All right. So, yeah, for us, mobile has become the most important thing. At AuthorityLabs, people are die-hard into what's ranking on mobile, what's showing up in mobile, and the tracking has been crazy. So, anything else that you all have seen lately that you'd want to, I don't know, give some tips to client-wise in regards to mobile SEO? Hmm.
Go responsive. Just do it.
Yeah,
Just get
absolutely.
fun.
There's no reason not to try at least. I don't care what CMS you have right now. Even the obscure ones have some kind of template that's mobile. Maybe it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but at least it's there. And so you get that mobile friendly link, or at least you don't lose traffic from people looking just for the mobile stuff. But no, you got to at least try. Again, iterative process. We said it before with implementing Schema. I mean, do something right now. There was a great WordPress plugin in the early stages, WP Mobile, I think it was, and it was ugly, and everybody's mobile site looked the same.
Yep.
But it was something, and it was there, and it made you mobile friendly, and it was very thumb friendly, right? Isn't that the key, thumb friendly? So I mean, start with something and get going from there. It doesn't take much.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that still out there, Thom, because when you go to sites, you still see it.
Well, I'm not saying it shouldn't go away. Well, I'm not saying it shouldn't go away, but it's something. Again, iterative process, right? I mean, if you can't afford or you can't get a good developer to help you out with a responsive theme, then
Right.
at least a mobile-friendly plugin that does a simple browser detect to at least swap up the CSS to make you thumb-friendly. At least something to get it started with,
Yeah.
and then work from there.
Because I don't want to be like an old complainer person, but if I'm on your website and there's a phone number, I kind of like to click it.
Right.
And I hate going like this and like it's not dialing.
You got to hold it down and wait to copy the text, and then
Right.
paste it with your phone app, then, right? And yeah, no.
Like,
And then on top of that too, I mean, because we'll put the analytics hat on for a second. Track that too, people. If you got a TEL link that you're actually going to put out there, make sure you're tracking that. That's effectively an offline conversion. So, but that's another story, another day, another topic.
Yep. Email links too.
yeah.
Yeah, everything.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't understand in today's world why.
Well, no, but we got away from that, right? There was all these bots that came and scraped our email addresses off the page, so we
Right.
stopped doing that. Now we're in a mobile-friendly world. We just want to tap and go, and yeah, I mean, we're back to looking at, hey, should we reinvestigate these mail-to links to make it easier for people to get our address?
Right. Yeah. Well, let's see. The other question we had, since continued SEO success depends on providing a great user experience, how can we use Schema to help users? I think we've already kind of gone over that. I mean, you're basically providing the data that people are looking for in a way that Google can share it, correct?
Absolutely. They can understand it, they can digest it. Again, if the user is looking for something very specific. I mean, if you go to, I always use this example, you go to to Google and type in hammer. Depending on where you're typing it in, how you're typing it in, if you're physically moving at the time while you're doing it, if you're on mobile, Google's going to show you different things. You might see a museum in Los Angeles. You might see the singer. You might see, a hardware store or hardware stores nearby on a map, box that shows where to buy a hammer. And the more vague your search is, the more Google's going to try to understand it. But if you're kind of saying looking for a hammer, it'll automatically take in your location. If you own a store that has that location tagged into it, it's a better user experience there. It makes everything come together, and it puts all that into place.
Okay. The next question we had is, what core value statements do you apply to Schema, and how does that change for each vertical? I'm not sure I understand that one, but I'm sure. Sure anyway.
I mean, we'll do like a Schema audit. So we will take a look at the website. We'll see what kind of products there are, what kind of location pages there are, reviews, anything that we know is available to be marked up, so that we can like kind of bucket everything out. And then from there, we will write the actual schemas for each of the on-page elements. I don't know if that's kind of what the question's alluding to, but we definitely have a couple-step process, and we're not just running wild with the schema, so to speak.
Okay, and related to that question, is it possible to do too much markup, or should you be picky and choosy?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that people have gotten penalties and stuff for schema markups. Don't know that I really believe it. I haven't really seen anything about it. But if you're getting a message in Webmaster Tools or something like that, like anything else, you want it to be natural. My grandma has no idea what it is that I do every day. So if I give her a piece of content, I want it to read like it was something awesome, not something created for the internet to, talk to spiders. So if it feels unnatural or it feels icky that you're doing it, or you're really debating whether you should mark up an element on the page or not, don't do it. I'm all about just keeping everything as clean and natural and rational as possible.
Yeah, stick with the basics. If it's something that you're searching, think about how you would search. I mean, truly, it goes back to, put yourself in your customer's shoes. How would you search for your stuff? By location, by product, by service, by whatever. And if it's something that you want to make sure comes up in the search result, then you tag it. I mean, again, your basics: location, product, service, certainly. Events, absolutely. Ratings, if they're applicable. Don't just put them in for the sake of putting them in, but if you have stuff that's reviewed regularly, absolutely mark that up. Or use a service that pulls reviews from somewhere else that already has the markup on it still. So, but yeah, I mean, don't do it for the sake of doing it, like everything else.
Okay. Do you have any specific fails you see often in regards to schema? Is there a way to fail? I don't know.
Well, I mean, you can mistag things, certainly. I learned when I was just playing around with it in its very early stages, if you don't have everything there, Google kind of ignores it, or at least it used to. There's the markup testing tools that are out there that Google provides. There are links off Webmaster Tools or the Search Console, whatever it's called this week. You can certainly go in there and test them out and see if Google understands them. It'll throw out things like, in red, this isn't right, or this requires this to be valid. Other than that, I can't see how you fail aside from just flat out lying about what you're putting in the schema.
Okay. Can you all tell us like your favorite tools that you use for schema or really anything? What are your best SEO tools?
Schema.org. I like the Raven tool. It's simple. It's been around for a little while. It spits out decent enough. It's especially good for basic markups. Excel. I mean, constantly working in Excel for everything, but schema definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a fan of just throwing your text editor open, go to the schema website, look up what I need to look up, and just manually tagging it. Use Excel, use some kind of spreadsheet at least for tracking what you've tagged where, so you can be consistent in how you do it. But and if you're looking to mark up certain pages or whatever, which pages have it for what product and what tags are being used. No, I'm a very old school, let's code this manually kind of thing wherever possible, and I still use VI. I'll even admit that. So if you don't know what that is, it's an old text editor, and it just proves my geekiness, I guess.
If you were going to suggest that people learn more either about, the SEO or even schema, but let's just say SEO in general, what are your favorite resources that you recommend to people to get really good nitty-gritty factual information, not regurgitated iffy, which I see a lot of.
My first go-to when I'm trying to explain this to somebody new to the space is go to Google's SEO guide. They start with pretty much the basics of what they're looking for, what they're expecting. There's a few don't do this kind of thing that's out there too, or you may have heard of companies that do things like this. There's a few of those out there, but their main guide is the great first starting point. There used to be a lot of great resources, and I don't want to name things in that way either, but yeah, start with that, and then you work your way through other things, like, again, the schema.org website. Certainly for schema, you can see how things relate to each other like that. But Google's best practices are if you follow the common sense rules that are in there, tactics should follow fairly easily.
Yeah.
Mods has some good resources and stuff like that, but I think kind of your process for reviews is a really good process just generally for SEO and learning about SEO. You want to source the information from a lot of different places because there are people out there that don't really know what they're doing. There's people that have some idea, and there's people that are definitely doing it at an advanced level. So if you're able to source your information from a lot of different places, you're going to get a good mix. You're going to figure out kind of where center is.
Conferences, of course, are always a great place to network. I don't care what the conference is. There's always great networking opportunities within those conferences, and you seek out the older, long-standing speakers, to be honest, because the knowledge that they have is not just up to date, that kind of stuff, but it's also they know the history of the various updates. The people who've been in this business the longer, know what has been tried, what has now stopped working, that kind of stuff. Where I meet some people here and there like, oh yeah, we're trying this new thing, we're going to stuff extra keywords here. Okay, that went out a long time ago, kind of thing. You should have known that, but and that's a poor example, but you get the idea. The people who are long-standing in these conferences, the long-term speakers, have a lot of history that you can tap into. The history is probably more invaluable than the actual tactics.
Yeah, because if you don't really get how it used to work, you can't really get how it works now.
Right, because you could say this doesn't work now, so let's go back. Let's try this, which is actually a go back mark that has been long since disproven.
Yeah.
If you can remember Florida, the Florida update, I mean, talk to those people.
Well, I remember the days when you could get search engines to get drink in the bar and get information. They don't drink anymore; they're not allowed. But the other question I have for both of you, which I ask pretty much everyone, is SEO clearly is a lot harder today than it was 5 years ago. Everyone thinks they're an SEO today, but there's all these little guides on the internet on how to choose an SEO company to hire or what to ask, but they all lack validity in my opinion. So if someone was going to come to you and say, how do I choose an SEO company or a consultant, what would you tell them to do or to ask or to look for?
There's a trend nowadays for asking for resumes of the people involved in the team, and I have two minds about this, because you're kind of prying into somebody's whatever, but at the same time, you look how long they've been in SEO related fields, how big is their team, how what's their experience. Again, the history I think really matters. You've got a lot of people, like you said, who say they're SEOs, they're new to the industry, 2, 4, 5 years even. I'm not sure that's. You need to have a senior person that's been around a while to give that to the rest of the team. I'm also a huge fan, just like we do with reviews and for other things and checking resources. Ask somebody for a list of their prior clients, and then if you would be allowed to talk to them, and if not, do it anyway. Go find them on LinkedIn, and try to reach out to them. Say, hey, I'm looking for information on this, and this. I see you stopped working with them. Why? Be bold.
Be bold.
If you don't get an answer, you don't get an answer. If you do, you'll get some very valuable information.
I'd add in too, anybody that's guaranteeing anything, they're promising that you're going to be able to achieve first page results in 2 months. I haven't seen it in a little while, but it's still out there right now. I would absolutely run the other way. You can read the headlines of any of the SEO publications out there and have a general idea of what's going on. And if you then interview that person or you ask them what kind of tactics they're using, and they're not discussing the stuff that's in the headlines of the news that you're reading, that could easily be another big indication that maybe you shouldn't be working with that individual.
Actually, there's one more too that I actually had a client tell me, and I kind of bucked it for a while, but then I realized no, they were actually 100% right. Anybody who emails you out of the blue offering SEO services, think about that one a second. I'm like, no, because I will email somebody and say, but no, I won't email somebody unless I've had a prior contact with them at some point in time. If you just get the, hey, we noticed that we're trying to reach somebody at such-and-such.com about about your site, and you aren't ranking right now. Those are almost shoo-ins right there. Just hit delete, hit spam, whatever.
Okay, so now I'm going to reverse this. Let's say you're a great SEO, you're talented, but you're money hungry, right? So I think we've all been where you take every client in the beginning to kind of money and get experience. What would you say to people that are maybe just starting up an agency or new to consulting on how to choose clients?
Oh,
Because we've all
Jason, you
been
want to
there.
go? Because I've got a strong opinion, but I'll let you go first if you want, Jason.
I mean, you got to look at the data and try to figure out if it's something that is going to be successful for you. I think you almost have to interview the client too and understand if they understand their business and understand the data that's available to them. What are their goal metrics? Are their goal metrics vanity? Do they want to see themselves on the first page, or do they want to earn more traffic over time? Do they want to earn more leads and conversions? You're tying your star to theirs, so to speak. And you have to make sure that it's going to be a project that you're going to be successful with, and you're going to help somebody that wants to be helped in the right way.
Right.
Yeah, totally. You interview the client, absolutely. I sat with a client one time, and it was pretty much a matter of, I turned into almost elitist. I'm like, I'm only taking certain people on. There's only one of me. I only have so much time in the day. And it's exactly that. If they have vanity metrics, if they're not willing to change, if you say you're going to need to change your website and place code or place copy or place whatever on your site, and you automatically start seeing some hesitation, some feedback, that should be a warning flag. If they said we've tried 8,000 SEOs and we don't trust any of them anymore, you know what? That's sometimes a warning flag, sometimes not, but generally speaking, it almost always is. But know what you have the time for. Plan out your hours. You can dedicate X number of hours to a client, or you have a contract for X number of hours with a client or a retainer. Make sure you know what you're getting into, and always give yourself a little buffer room of hours, so you don't overload yourself. You'll do a disservice to yourself and to your clients in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if they're the kind that want you to hold their hand.
And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, as long as you're making the progress and taking the steps with them. If you're holding their hand and they're trying to run the other direction, well, that's another story altogether.
But I think too, they need to be open to your feedback. If you're holding their hand and you're pointing out issues with their sales process, or you're seeing that there's something wrong with just their basic business structure, and they don't understand the value of their leads that they're getting, or something like that, they need to be receptive to that feedback. They need to fix that issue, because you can send as many leads as possible, but if they're not able to close them, if they're not able to sell whatever product it is they're selling, and they're not open to your feedback. I mean, I'm a digital guy, but I know a lot of other stuff too, and the most successful clients are definitely open to some of the more far out things that I bring to the table.
Yeah. And I'm talking about the ones that want to be talking to you 24/7 like a consultant for everything. Like you were saying, more stuff, and they pick your brain and pick your brain and pick your brain, and you're like, but the biggest problem I've seen is you do everything right for the website, maybe for like a storefront, and they don't understand the customer service side. Like, we can't fix that for you if you don't answer your phone, or your people are rude,
Setting expectations has always been key. I mean, in every industry in general, but I see it a lot in this industry especially, and it's not just the one-on-one consultants, it's various agencies, and I've worked with and for several. If you don't set the right expectations with the client up front, and with your team saying, this is what we're telling the client to expect, this is what I expect out of you, and this is what I expect that we don't do, going out of scope, answering 8,000 questions, whatever the case might be. You've got to set expectations with everybody involved. I hate to use the word stakeholder, but yeah, I mean, the client and their team and your team internally on, we're spending X number of hours. We have a slush of this number of hours, and this is what's expected, and this is what's expected in return when we make a recommendation. This has to be done, and all of our other stuff is going to be reliant on certain recommendations being completed. So, but setting expectations and client expectations is great. You can say the word no to a client if the expectations have been set and understood, and not hurt anybody's feelings, and still actually more productive that way too.
Yeah. And that's
it's always dicey to tell a client their idea is bad for the first time. That's always a gut check for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's the joy of clients. SEO in general it's very data driven. It's a mental mind suck, in my opinion. Like, you can get exhausted. What do you guys do to clear your heads and be able to dig through data day after day after day.
Clear your head? I'm sorry, what is this magic that you speak?
Like if you guys are both, experienced SEOs and have been doing this a while, where you didn't like do SEO for a year and stop and do something else. I'm just wondering, how do you maintain your mental stability and not get burnt out?
This is something that I still struggle with today. I try to start every day with a workout, and that definitely does help. I'm a cyclist. I love to ride. If I could ride every day, that would probably help me a lot. But I really haven't figured out the answer to this question, unfortunately. It's still something that I'm trying to zero in. I think that probably the best piece of advice is balance. Trying to just find balance in all things, and make sure that you're building your life in a way that is equally balanced.
Balance and diversity too. I am ADD, as I assume a lot of people in our industry totally are, but I truly am. I have the luxury of working from home, so I'm in my home office right now. Over the summer or even late fall, when it's still gorgeous outside and the kids are at school, I'm jumping out on my deck and I'm sitting out there, and at least I have a little nature sounds around me and some fresh air around me, and I can sit outside with a cup of coffee in the sunlight, and so fine. I turn the brightness of my computer a little bit, but I do make sure I get into the office in New York, at least once or twice a month. That way, again, different situation, interacting with people, actual humans talking to me instead of through a computer screen or a phone. If you don't have the luxury of getting away or having that, whatever to break up the monotony of the week, day in and day out, at least try to vary what the day brings, So change of scenery, living room, office, your porch outside, whatever.
Yeah, good tip. Okay, so we're coming into 2016. Is anything changing for you all as far as focus for clients' websites, or is it nothing's changed dramatically with Google updates or algorithms, in your opinion? Too much that you have to change everything at this point? As you know, how people jump on the trends, and
it's all about the trends, right? It's buzzwords and trends, and that's all we know or care about. So no, no. There was a bunch of updates that were pushed out to Google's algorithm at the end of last year, right? So everybody's still trying to make heads or tails of that. Presumably, there's more to come. Although I read something now about a developer freeze at Google. So no, you keep up with the Joneses. I don't know. For me and for our agency, we're all on the whole see, think, do philosophy that Avinash preaches when he goes around his circuits. So it's taking our clients that are not in that see, think, do frame of mind and trying to get them to think about everything's about a moment, right? It's always that moment when somebody is searching. There's a thought behind their head somewhere. What are they searching for? It's something actionable, most certainly. So instead of being based off keywords, we're now being based off intent and trying to get our clients thinking in that direction. And that does, not to take this too far, go take it back to the schema stuff, again, intent. The more you understand about what somebody's thinking and what they're trying to do behind the scenes there in their head, the more Google can help relate to other objects, in life. So, I mean, that's our biggest thing right now is getting all of our clients who haven't started on that path yet down that thinking of in the moment and the see, think, do process.
And in regards to that intent, which Google almost scares me sometimes when they know, they know the next question I was going to ask.
Right.
What are you, how are you helping clients do that? Is it with content? Is it with optimization? The combination of both? What kind of medias are you using? Video versus,
It's everything, actually. I mean, we've got such an amazing set of teams, actually. And I'm not just saying that; it really is. We've got an SEO team that's just phenomenal. So they're always looking. It still starts with a keyword, but they're looking for phrases, looking for ways of doing that, and not just saying, okay, here's our products and here's some keywords around it. But now you've got, we've got a bank as a client, let's say, for one of them, and it's not just banking, checking account, credit card, mortgage, that kind of stuff. It's I'm moving to such and such area. Are there banks here nearby, or what kind of products for checking accounts or whatever do you have that differentiate from what I have currently, and comparing credit unions to a commercial bank, that kind of stuff. what kind of things are people doing? If they're moving or if they're changing jobs or that kind of stuff, what kind of actions are actually involved around the keywords of your product? So it's starting with that with the SEO team. Certainly doing great ads for the PPC and display teams for that matter too. And of course we're measuring things differently too. So if somebody's taking an action on the site, making sure all the possible actions are there and measured properly, and following that path from when they first come in and how they're getting there, to what they're doing once they're there and how they interact after the fact. So it's this really fascinating holistic approach to, we've taken from hey, let's search for something, from keywords to phrases, to now I'm trying to accomplish this, and how do we change our content and how do we measure all that and promote all that to make it a win-win for the client.
I would agree with that. It is very much holistic, and it's about whatever the client's goals are, what is it we're trying to achieve, and then building in strategies that are going to help them achieve that. I focus less on the total Google ecosystem. I mean, I'm aware of what's going on. I'm up on date on all the latest updates and stuff like that. But really, I just want to be better than the competitors that I'm working in. If I'm 10 to 20% better than them, whether it's site speed or the amount of schema markups we have, the quality of our blog content, that's what I really care. It's not so much about being the big fish in the big pool. You can shrink it down and be a bigger fish in a smaller pool and still do pretty good for yourself.
Very true. Yeah. Well, it's I don't know. My ADD, Thom, has got my brain thinking like 10 different things while you're talking, while he's talking, and then I'm like, oh, what was my question?
Call up Eric Schmidt. He said it a few years ago, right? Google wants to know what you're thinking before you actually type it into the box, right? So just
Yep.
call Eric Schmidt and say, hey, we got 15 minutes left here. What was I going to ask?
Oh, now here it is. Question for you all: can businesses survive today without pay-per-click?
Can they? Yes.
Can they grow?
That's so subjective. It's going to depend on the vertical. It's going to depend on what else they're doing digitally. I used to have a radio background, and I've got some friends still in radio, and one of the PDs from an old city I used to live in just sent out this link saying, haha, look at this, and it was an article that said why radio is kicking every media's ass, and it's still reaching a lot of people. Of course, the cynic and the analytics guy in me says, okay, it's reaching people, but how many people is it actually falling upon and actually laying eggs in, So, I mean, that's not, we can always make the numbers say what we want. But again, that shows right there. It greatly depends on the space. It depends on a lot of things. But it is possible, yes. Do I want to say you should? No. You can always help and get some quick wins with paid and get moving. But it's the great way of kickstarting. I did a thing with Cornell a couple years ago, and we had an initiative over a 2-week time period to increase leads by 25% in a 2-week period, and the agenda for that was, and oh, by the way, you're doing it by decreasing your paid spend. Well, what can you do in 2 weeks? We did it. We did 26.5%, and I couldn't believe it. So there are ways of doing that. In our case there for that, we ended up going back to looking at, we said, okay, what's the persona of the customer we think is going to buy this particular product? And started doing, marketing 101, draw Sally Homemaker or whoever, whatever, and putting the personas out there. And then we called up the sales guys and said, give us all the sales data for the past 5 years. Let's look at these people, and it wasn't anywhere what we thought it was going to be. So then it was complete wholesale content changes in some cases, and a lot of videos and that kind of stuff. But can you do it? Absolutely. There's a lot of social involved with that too, especially LinkedIn. It's possible. It certainly is possible, and over a course of longer than 2 weeks, absolutely. But no, I mean, it's something you still got to consider.
I think it definitely is possible to do without PPC. I think it's a much-needed data layer. PPC stuff can inform SEO actions and be super useful for that. I think the big thing that is difficult for businesses to understand is that they have to pay on social now. And I think that social ads are something that are going to become increasingly harder not to do. You absolutely need to do it right now. And I think that it's going to be more difficult in the future, if you're not doing social ads.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, people live on Facebook. unfortunately, it's something you're going to have to, and that's the thing a lot of businesses are saying is, do I have to pay, do I have to pay, do I have to pay? That's why I thought I'd ask you all what you thought. But
there's a really interesting article I read in the Atlantic this weekend about farmers in a Pacific country. I can't think of the name right now, but they had a government dictator. The government was, or the military was thrown out, and cell phone usage has become like massive, exploded. Chinese cell phones, smartphones have flooded the market, and the #1 app that everybody wanted on their phone was Facebook. And Facebook was what everybody in this small country used to keep in touch. They didn't have emails. They didn't understand how the person that set up the Facebook account and put it on their phone did so. They didn't know any of the friends that they were connected to. But Facebook was the #1 app that was on their phone.
Wow. I have to look that one up.
I'll tweet it out after this.
It is interesting. The people that know how to do Facebook ads the right way, they've nailed me, man. Like, I always said I will never click on an ad on Facebook, and I didn't for years, but this past year it's become, wow, like, especially with t-shirts, you know, like Star Wars t-shirts and stuff. Never seen that shirt before.
Well, they're so invasive now too. I mean, it's kind of hard to differentiate in sometimes, you know, when you're going too fast and whatever, you know, in our ADD world, right? So it's kind of hard sometimes to recognize these sponsored posts from the regular ones sometimes, and they're so interspersed in there.
Yeah. Okay, my last question I have for you all is, with clients, are you focusing more on video or text content today, or is it a mixture of both?
We're doing a good mixture of both. There's a few clients that I'm on board with right now that have a lot of videos that are going out. In fact, we're adding a lot of new tracking too, so it's not just did they view the video or did they complete the video. We're measuring percentages where they didn't have them before, in some cases at least. So I know we're doing a lot more with video, but it's still a very good mix of both.
Yeah, our video is growing as well. I think as a general rule, anytime possible, we want to have video content. If we can't have video content, we want to have imagery or a GIF perhaps. And if we can't pull that off, then HTML text is what we're going for. But it's layering. Again, video gives you that opportunity that's not going to be found with HTML. It's going to give you additional markups to have on your page. It's going to help you get found on other networks. So it depends on strategy, depends on bandwidth, depends on a lot of things. But wherever possible, we definitely bake in video.
Yeah, for the most part, you got to understand that your YouTube video is not necessarily going to be your new sales machine, but it's like Jason said, it's going to introduce your brand to other channels through other ways, and it's part of the overall content strategy. Certainly, it helps put people, into some part of that funnel at some point.
Well, I was sitting with, Brett Tabke and I were watching a video from some people that did these great viral videos, and they uploaded it on YouTube and they uploaded it on Facebook. And in an hour on Facebook, it had 200 million views, and it had 26,000 on YouTube. So it's like the power of video and Facebook. Like, if you have a great video, I didn't know if you all had been doing any of that yet, or I never thought I'd go to Facebook for everything that I'm going to, like entertainment, humor. I used to go to sites for all this, so I'm kind of shocked at this massive shift. I'm wondering how this is going to affect businesses. I do not see businesses sharing things really showing up in my feed at all unless they pay. So. Right,
and who's doing that now, right?
Right. But I thought maybe you all are like, yeah, we've done all kinds of Facebook video. No. But we do need to know where Jason got his shirt.
I actually got my shirt from a Facebook ad. I was like, ooh, that's just good. And I had to jump through some hoops to get it, but I eventually did. It's an uptime tracking company. I can't remember the name. I'm sure it's on the back of the shirt or something like that, so I'm sorry. I appreciate the shirt. I love it. But it's it just tracks to make sure that your website's live.
Cool. Okay, so tell everybody, we'll start with Thom, where can people find you online? Are you a blogger? Are you going to be anywhere? Conferences this year? Where can people meet you?
I'm doing a conference down in Wow, Gulf Shores, Alabama, for their tourism industry. I don't think it's exclusive to them though. Middle of next month, I'll be doing a 4-hour analytics training class at ClickZ Live in New York, and probably doing San Francisco and Chicago as well. Haven't gotten that far in my planning just yet. At Thom Craver, it's with an H, Thom, on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me blogging at various places, including the Acronym Be Brilliant blog, occasionally here and there. Trying to reach out to other places. I used to blog for a lot of brands, ClickZ, Search Engine Watch, SEM Rush's blog. Kind of cut that back a lot. I'm trying to get back into that now. So, but at Twitter is usually the best way to find me.
Cool. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me at DragonSearch.com. You can do a Google search for DragonSearch plus Jason White. That would be awesome because I like that organic stuff. I can be found on Twitter at Sonray, S-O-N-R-A-Y. And, I'm on LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff, too. I think my next speaking engagement is with Amplify in Boston in May. I'm looking forward to that. And I should be doing a lot more blogging, but I just haven't. But you can find me out there occasionally with a blog post.
Well, I find that the people that are the busiest really don't have the time to blog. So,
yeah.
And you don't have the brain power left to do it.
Well, I have the ideas. I just don't have the time to write the post.
Have the time to get them out.
Yeah.
So that should be one of those things we're doing to escape from the routine, right? That should be go back to that question from a while ago.
Good tip.
Yeah, except that you guys need that moment to. And I've also found the best guys tend to be perfectionists, and it takes them much longer to get the blog posts out than like other people, So I know like Todd Malicote will spend like 10 hours on a blog post. So I'm like, how do you do that? But he wants it to be just right, So, but thank you, both of you, for all your information and your thoughts on schema and SEO, and we really appreciate your time. And I know some people are not seeing this live, but it says it's streaming, so when we're done, we're going to work it all out and be tweeting the video. So, but thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you from everyone at Authority Labs. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.